844-580-WDBO. How you doing today, Larry?
We're doing a whole lot better cold-wise than we were last Saturday. I think I'm on the downswing. The problem that I'm running into is the wife seems to be having it now, and I think we're passing it backwards and forwards to each other. Hey, folks, 3 o'clock. Hey, I'm Larry Perry, and you're tuned in to the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. So you new listeners know this is an interactive automotive and mechanical advice program where we help you with your car problems and just about anything mechanical. It's been our pleasure to do so for over 31 years. Me personally, I'm an automotive shop owner, and I've been a master auto technician since 1982. To make the program work, we need your calls and your car questions. Lines are open at 844-580-9326. And I always try to point out, if you can remember the 844 part and the station you're listening to, which is 580 WDBO. So if you can remember 844-580 WDBO, that'll put you right in line and get you in touch with Josh. He'll get your year, make, and model and get your question indexed, and we'll get you on the air here in just a few minutes. And remember, all your calls and your car questions, well, they're being indexed and they're being placed on our new Magic Mechanic YouTube channel. And so you folks will know, if you put in Magic Mechanic YouTube, you'll see many automotive questions that I've answered, I guess, into the hundreds now on that. And some of them you can actually play back the entire radio show if you'd like. So we do that so other folks searching for your answers, searching for answers like yours, will be able to get the same needed information. And this will be indexed, and hopefully it'll help a whole lot of folks out over the years. Think about that. Folks will be able to play your car questions back and hear how screwed up your car was years from now. Well, maybe not looking at it that way, but, I guess that's kind of the fact, So, but yeah, that'll all be placed on there, and you can go in there and you can always play it back yourself. So, kind of a cool thing we're trying to do now. But whether you've got a dash warning light, like a service engine soon, tire pressure, maybe you've got a problem with your remote system, maybe not allowing the car to start, or like one of my neighbors, she had a water bottle in her purse. And of course, her key fob for her keyless start was in there as well. And I hate to tell you that she didn't have an extra key fob, so I don't know if she ever got the car started or not. But that's not a good thing. Keep those things dry, folks. Maybe you got oil consumption problems, engine noises, your AC's not working correctly, steering, suspension, vibration issues. Maybe you've got an abnormal noise or a steering wheel pull to one side or the other. Warranty questions. Maybe you got a recall notice in the mail. Maybe you were looking into an ongoing problem and you want to know if there's any technical service bulletins involved. Antique and classic car issues. I just put an engine together for a 72 Corvette this week. Turned out really nice. So any of these old antique classic car issues, whether it be on a British car, an MG, old Jaguars, any of that stuff, most folks hold up a crucifixion when you even mention the names. I work on it. It doesn't matter. It's just a car. And we do that on any gas, hybrid, or electric, and of course diesel vehicles. Also remember, I have a complete database of all the listed recalls and technical service bulletins up to present date, 2023. All you need to do is give us a call, 844-580-WDBO, and give our producer Josh a year, make, and model of your vehicle and a description of your problem. You'll be placed on a brief hold, and we'll get to your call in the order that it was received. It looks like we still got 2 open lines. So go ahead and hop on board. Also remember, for immediate help, you can call the shop number and speak to JD, or if the line's busy, just leave a message, and we'll give you a call back. Also want to mention the open mic option. You can go to WDBO.com on your smartphone, and you can download the app, and you can leave us an open mic car question. Just give us the year, make, and model and the issue that you're having. Briefly, it all needs to be done in about 30 seconds, and we'll get to those open mic questions at around the bottom of the 4 o'clock news break. So around 4:36 this afternoon, we're going to get to our open mics. And you can also ask a car question, and I love these folks. Listen, I'm telling you, the emails I get, they are absolutely incredible, and now it's kind of a double whammy because we get so many comments and car questions from the new YouTube channel, plus you radio listeners. So I guess I could almost just have a job answering emails for a living here. So, but if you want to send me an email with your car question, just send it to Larry@magicmechanic.com. And I can't guarantee I'll get to them during the course of the show, but if I can't fit them in, I will answer them by the first of the week. And if you want to go to our website, that's magicmechanic.com. So if you don't want to go to a website, just Larry@magicmechanic.com. Just tell me the year, make, and model, what you got going on, and we'll try to get those answered for you. All right, well, we're just about full up, so let's head out to Robert here in Melbourne. I heard Robert had called in a lot earlier today and got a question about a vehicle. I don't even know, Robert, if they even sell this thing in the United States, do they?
No, they don't.
Interesting vehicle. Folks, he's calling about a 2016 Kia Bongo. It's kind of like a cab over little diesel truck that I guess they sell mostly in the Caribbean islands and in South America. I've seen them when I've been in the Bahamas, but I don't think I've ever seen one in the United States. Are you looking to purchase one to import it into the U.S. or do you need it out of the country, Robert?
Well, I actually live in Costa Rica, and I see them all over the place. Most of the people that are like construction workers or whatever various type of businesses that they have, most of the guys have those vehicles. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious to see if they're even, if they're reliable. Well, I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah, they make a couple. They've made them for years. I mean, they are very, very common out of the United States. They're all little diesels, They make a couple different little diesels on them. And Robert, I'll tell you, I did a little research on it before the program come on, and honestly, for as many of those as there is on the road down there in South America, there's not a whole lot of issues that I can see with them. The engines actually hold up good along with the transmissions. And I'm going to tell you, the only thing that is really common as far as problems with that vehicle, it looks to be that there is a few overheating issues that is common with those vehicles. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you, the way I understand this, and I looked at the schematic on it, it looks like that you have an AC condenser, if it's got AC on it, and you have an intercooler. Right. And those components, of course, get pretty hot. And the way I understand it, the radiator sets way back from the condenser and the intercooler. And by having it like that, that air isn't really being able to be forced into the radiator to really keep it optimally cold, And so I guess especially excessive idling and that sort of thing, in-town driving could probably be a little hard on them. Out on the road, it'd probably be fine. Now, I would tell you this, and when I think of something like this, I'm sure it's already been done. But since they're talking about the excessive distance between the radiator and the intercooler and the condenser, to me, if I wanted to direct that airflow more so into the radiator, there's a couple ways a person could do that. You could build some shrouds to actually go from the radiator maybe right straight down to underneath the vehicle, or just build like some type of a box to actually funnel the air more into the radiator itself. So that way, when the cooling fan's kicked on and you got your regular fan on the motor pulling air through, maybe that would give it just a little more airflow through the radiator itself. But it sounds like a problem that could be easily corrected, is what I want to try to get to.
And, it's pretty interesting you brought that up, because Costa Ricans love modifying stuff and love their accessories down there. So I don't think I'd have a problem finding anybody to help me do something like that, or maybe I could just do it myself.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd look it up. You could probably look it up online. I'm sure it's been done. But, that was really the most common denominator as far as problems goes with those. Other than that, those engines, I really did not know, Robert, but they've been making those things for years and years and years.
2008, I believe.
Well, earlier than that. They've got them for 2003. So I was like, I had no idea that they've been making that vehicle that long. But it being something that we don't run into every day, and, a question like this, I love investigating something new. I'm almost excited about it. But listen,
well, I'm glad that you're excited.
But you get one of those. Listen, I want you to call us back and check in with us, because I'm sure, with the YouTube channel and stuff, people listen to the program or tune in all over the world. And I'd like to have as much information about that vehicle as we possibly can. So if somebody else is looking for information on it, that way we kind of help them along the way too. Robert, thank you so much for giving us a call and kicking the show off today.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we're going to take a break here, and it's time for the three big things. And we get back, folks, John, Mike, Richard, George, John, Justin, and AJ, we're going to get to your calls as well.
WDBO. Let's head on over to Orlando, where John's got a question. Go ahead, John.
Well, hello, Larry. This is Orlando John. I'm a regular listener, a regular customer, and I drink a quart of AMSOIL every day.
You're a good man.
I know you're a straight shooter, and I have this troubling question.
All right.
Right now, the Mecum auction is going on, and I have retired. I have a tiny little bit of money to buy I kind of want a hot rod. I've not really had anything like that. Nothing exotic, maybe a 57 Chevy or something. But my question is, they're running these things through. They just look at them. How many people, in your experience, have you seen buy a car from Mecum Auction, find out that it was a snow job, that it was puttied up, rusted out underneath and, didn't run, or something like that really was hidden? How many of those cars are really worth? Some of those cars get big bucks. And how many of them are real junk that are just patched up?
Well,
what's your opinion, sir?
John, it depends on whether – see, when you go to the auction to buy a vehicle like that, and it's funny you said that. I've been watching the Mecum auction for the last couple hours, and seeing what some of this stuff's bringing. It's amazing. I could tell you horror stories. Not just from Mecum. I mean, where, consumers will go and they'll buy vehicles sight unseen. From supposedly a reputable dealer, and then they get them here in Orlando and they bring them to me, and the cars need an exorcism. I mean, it's just the people that's been working on it is hacked and whacked and just made the awfulest mess ever was. Before as a consumer, I'm gonna put it to you like this. As a consumer, if you're looking at investing, $50, $100,000 into a nice car, and it's an investment. Don't look at it as a cost, because you're always able to sell the car and get every dime plus you gave for it, because right now it's a real escalating market. I mean, they just keep going up. It's like this. If it was me and I was a consumer and I knew nothing about a car, I would hire me a tech, a master tech, to go and spend a day with you, at the auction. Look underneath these. Look at how they were assembled. Unless you're in the business, John, you really don't know, what you're getting. A trained technician, somebody that's been in the industry for a long time, they can go and they can look at these vehicles and tell you, you don't want that one. They can tell if the quarter panel's 4 inches thick with Bongo and been rusted and that sort of thing. And if you don't know, you don't know. You could really be taken, especially when it comes to these older vehicles. There's some restorers out there, that's all they do, and they put out some incredible products. And those are the vehicles that, you can do a lot of background and research on, especially the companies that are building these cars before they ever run through the auction. So you kind of get an idea of the reputation that some of these builders have. But me personally, before I'm going to go and spend, let's say for an example, $100,000 on a 65-year-old vehicle, buddy, if I don't know anything about a car, I'm going to have somebody with me that does.
Stress and the amount of ease it can put the common man like me, just to have a professional take a look, take a listen for just a couple of seconds, listen to my problem, can really, really put you at ease. And that's the point of this here show. Free expert advice. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
And of course, like going to the doctor, a lot of times when you take your car to the mechanic, it doesn't act up. It feels better. You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
That's one of the downsides to comparing it with the medical field, I guess.
I feel like I saw an episode of Jerry Seinfeld one time when the mechanic was like, and what kind of noise is it making? And then they were just laughing at the people trying to imitate the noise, or something like that. Is that something you guys do? Can you describe the noise?
Not for basic entertainment. Now, to say we haven't made fun of a couple customers here and there would be an understatement. But, hey, it comes with the territory, A lot of times you just got some crazy, crazy noises, and it's funny to listen to people try to describe them. Let's head out to Sanford and talk to Justin. I know he was hanging on, and then he dropped off, and then he called back, and he's probably too upset. He's probably mad because he had to call back. Justin, what's going on?
That's when you fat finger a button there. Hey, Larry, how's it going?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Love the show. Hey, I got a 2010 Hyundai Elantra. It's been in the family since brand new. It's my son's now. And, it's done us great, runs great, but ever since the last, I would say, year, whenever he fills it up, it has an extended crank. Now, I used to be an ex-mechanic myself, so you typically think that's a purge valve. We replaced that twice because we thought the first one was bad. And we still have the issue. Good fuel pressure, but just can't figure it out.
Yeah. Well, Justin, if you're having extended crank after you fill it up and no other time, then what's happening is somehow or other there's raw fuel entering the intake. And what's happening is it's getting the spark plugs wet with fuel, and when you go to start it back up, the engine's flooded at that point. And it's just taking a excessive amount of cranking to knock enough fuel off the spark plugs to get it to fire up. Now, what you don't want to do is get it to the point where you have a backfire when all this is going on, because if you do, it's liable to blow the whole entire intake plenum completely off the engine. So, it's something that's going to need to be resolved. I tell you what you probably could do if you're pretty mechanically inclined is start pulling all of these emissions hoses off the engine, and at home or whatever, kind of back the vehicle uphill just a little bit, and take a 5-gallon gas can, put your funnel in the filler neck, and just keep adding fuel to it. You should be able to duplicate the problem. You'll probably find out which hose that's got fuel running out of it. That would be, I think, the best solution. That way you can actually see which line has got fuel coming out of it going into the intake, and then you can back trace it. I think on that one there, it's got a canister that's kind of back up underneath the vehicle in the rear. A lot of times those will have electronic solenoids on them that open and close depending on whether you're filling the vehicle or whatever, And if something like that is sticking open and allowing you to get raw fuel up into the intake, that's probably where you're going to find your problem. Purge valve, something like that can cause the issue. And I'll tell you, a lot of times this is something that you need to look for. If you've got a purge valve or a control solenoid or something like that, you've replaced it, and then you've got the problem again. Listen, what you need to look for is these little black granules that are embedded into either the purge valve or into a purge solenoid, whichever way the car is equipped. Now, what that tells you, if you got this black stuff, little granule, chunky looking little things, that means your charcoal canister has came apart. And that's common on those Hyundais. We see that quite often. Now, what I have done in the past, you bring the car to me, we diag it, okay, your solenoid or your purge valve's bad, we replace it, put it on there. You're good for a week, then you come back, you go, Larry, the daggone thing's doing the same thing again. We go in there and we check the part, and it's contaminated. It's got these little black pieces all stuffed up into it, meaning that the charcoal canister has come apart. Now, depending on a person's budget, those canister assemblies for those cars, they're expensive. I mean, some of them are $700-800. It costs more for the canister than the car's worth. Well, a lot of times what I'd wind up doing is I would just get an old fuel filter. I'd cut that emissions line and I'd put a fuel filter in front of it so that way it prevents any of that contamination or charcoal from getting back up in the solenoid and never have a problem out of them after that. So and I don't think it hurts anything emissions wise, so I don't think the federal government's going to chase me down and beat me up or anything. But if it comes down to that and you see that is the issue, it sounds like you're mechanically inclined enough to take the hint that I'm dropping here pretty much. And like I said, just get an old 5/16 inlet and outlet, old metal fuel filter, stick it in line, and see, that'll collect any of the debris that's come loose out of the charcoal canister. Win-win, cheapest way you could possibly fix it. Justin, thank you so much for your call, and I hope that helps you.
Thank you so much, Justin. That opens up a line for you to call, 844-580-9326. 844-580-WDBO. Let's head over to Oakland where Mike's got a question. Go ahead, Mike.
How you doing? I have a 2010 Hyundai Sonata,
okay.
4-cylinder.
All right.
160,000 miles. Love it. Has always run great. All of a sudden last week driving it, acceleration just keeps going down, no matter how much I press the pedal on the highway. I pull over. Luckily, I'm able to turn it off, turn it back on. The engine light's on, but I'm able to drive 60 and get the car home.
Okay.
I hook up the OBD to it, and it gives me 4 codes. 2 of them have the MAP sensor,
okay,
and I replaced it. And after I replaced it and hooked the OBD back up, the engine light's off, and the codes are gone. But the only thing is, now when I start it, the idle is isn't steady. It always has been real good at 700, perfectly even. Now it's a little rough. I drove the car around the block a couple times, but I'm still afraid to take it out on the road. Reading up on it a little bit, I didn't know if it might either be the throttle body needs to be cleaned, or could it be like I just need to change the spark plugs, it needs a tune-up?
If it's not misfiring, spark plugs and coils aren't going to help you at all. Now, you say you replaced your code was MAP or MAF, a mass airflow sensor or MAP sensor?
No, it was... the code number was actually P0106. I don't know if that means anything to you, but it was an MAP sensor. Small little part. I got the, brand new from Hyundai to make sure, because I had read about people using aftermarket parts and having problems.
Okay, all right. Now this part that you put on, where was it located?
I guess directly into the engine block. There is a plug that plugs into it with a wire. I disconnected the plug.
So it plugged it.
One single bolt holding it on.
So it actually bolted into the intake manifold.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then that is a map sensor, and the reason I'm having to clarify that, Mike, is most of your vehicles, nowadays, fuel injected ones are mass air flow. That's what measures the incoming air into the engine, so it can make correct fuel injector adjustments. Well, in your case, what it's using is a map sensor, what is referred to as a speed density, and they're using engine vacuum to make those injector commands. And a lot of times, when they're in the intake like that and they don't have a separate vacuum hose going to them, what will happen is you'll get carbon in those things, and just from the heat and stuff will cause them to act up. Now you've got a fluctuating idle. And when you get an engine idle that's fluctuating on that vehicle, I don't think that one uses an EGR valve. I think that one has got the overlap cut in the camshaft, so they don't use an EGR valve. But when you get a fluctuating idle like that, it's usually that there's a vacuum leak of some sort. Spark plugs aren't going to fix it. Those types of things aren't going to fix it. You could clean the throttle body, but I don't think that's what's going on. And if it's doing it right after you've done this, I don't think the air idle control solenoid's acting up. I think that would be very coincidental. If you get all your power back and everything is working okay, after you replace the map sensor, are you sure you don't have a vacuum hose off somewhere? I mean, have you double checked?
No, I mean, I guess I should go through and, check each individual hose. But, I mean, I hadn't been, before I replaced the sensor, I hadn't been in the engine touching anything where I would have accidentally knocked something. So unless it came dislodged by itself.
Yeah. See, let me explain real quick how this works. Let's say you got a vacuum leak somewhere. All right. Well, see, if you got a vacuum leak on a fuel-injected engine at an idle, it's going to cause the engine RPM to increase. Well, the computer system's sitting there going, wait a minute, now we're idling too high. So what it's going to do is it's going to cause the idle speed control motor to engage to lower the throttle vacuum, the amount of air the engine's sucking through the throttle body. So it's going to constantly be fighting. You see what I'm saying? It'll never win because it's trying to adjust that idle all the time. So it's going to be fluctuating up and down, up and down, up and down until, and usually it's always a vacuum leak that'll actually cause that problem. I would, there's probably, if you had to take something apart in order to get to the map sensor, there's probably a hose off somewhere. You probably just need to go back in there and revisit this and just look it over real good. When we get a car like that in, the first thing we do, Mike, is we hook what we call a smoke machine up to it. And what that does is it emits a non-toxic smoke all throughout the whole entire intake system of the engine, and then we'll see whatever it is. I mean, it's very apparent because it looks like a choo-choo train, You got smoke rolling out of a hose that, the mechanic didn't see. It's laying underneath the intake manifold, So you grab it and you plug it in, and history, takes care of itself. But in your case, you need to go back in there and look. If you didn't have that fluctuating idle before, I'm not going to blame it on a brand new Hyundai map sensor. I think this is, let me see, how do you say this? I think it's self-inflicted from the last mechanic that worked on it. And you look like the guilty party. So go in there and take a look at it. Let us know how you fare. Thanks for the call.
Okay, thanks for your help.
All right, brother.
Head on over to Longwood, where John's been hanging on. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Larry. I have an 02 150. It's a 4.6 liter. And I came out the other day. It cranks. I ran it earlier. It ran fine. And it didn't want to start. So I'm getting spark. There's no fuel going through the rail. So I took the relay out, and I jumped it, and then fuel was going to the rail. So I bought a new fuel relay, and that wasn't it. There's something else going on. It cranks. I'm not getting fuel up to the rail. when the relay's in there. And I checked the inertia switch to see if that had tripped, but that was fine.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. John, you might want to just try to bypass the inertia switch and then recheck it and try it. A lot of times those things can go bad, even if they're not, even if they don't set, you know, from an impact. They can actually they can actually just go bad. They can just start losing contact inside of them. So there, you know, that's something that you may want to just bypass and then check and try it again. Now, if you bypass the relay and you've got the fuel pump running all the time, vehicle starts up and runs okay?
No, it won't start. I took the relay out, I put a jumper wire in, I cranked it. It still wouldn't start.
Well, if you got fuel...
I'm getting spark.
Yeah, if you're getting spark and you've got fuel pressure, it should start up and run. You know,
I went out that morning, I drove it, it was fine. I came back to my house, 10 minutes later, I get in the truck, and it was like, nothing. Just cranking and cranking and cranking.
Okay, now when you jump the relay, because all you'll be doing is going from the 12-volt positive there to the 12-volt lead going straight to the fuel pump. When you're doing that, you do hear the fuel pump run, correct?
Yes, sir. You could hear it.
And you
push in the Schrader valve, and you get the fuel coming out of the Schrader valve line at a good pressure.
Well, John, I don't know what else to tell you. You might have something else going on too. But if you got spark and you've got fuel pressure, the vehicle should start up and run, unless you got something going on, maybe timing chain wise or something like that, where the thing jumped time. But it would be a real coincidence if your fuel pump relay problem and jumping time all happened at the same time. You know, if you got fuel pressure, you should be able to start and run the vehicle. Why don't you, have you scanned it to see if you've got any codes?
I did. Nothing came up. No codes at all.
John, I'll tell you what. Email me, Larry@magicmechanic.com. Let me think about this, and let me see if I can send you some info and give you a hand with it.
I appreciate it. Thank you,
sir. Hi, folks. Larry Perry here. For automotive information, maybe you got automotive questions on cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Maybe you're thinking about purchasing a used vehicle, and maybe you just want my opinion. Tune in to the Magic Mechanic radio show every Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m. on WDBO.com. Also, tune in to our Magic Mechanic YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe. And we'll all get together, maybe fix a few cars while we're at it.
Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Radio Show right here on WDBO. My name is Josh McCarthy, the middleman between your questions and the expert answers. Advice provided by the one and only Magic Mechanic Larry Perry himself. Call right now, 844-580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. You pick up the phone, you call me, you talk to me, give me your year, your make, your model, your issue. I smile and nod like I'd have any idea what you're talking about. Then I put you on hold and get you on the phone with Larry Perry himself. 844-580-9326. That's not too bad, Larry. I'm learning the little things as we go along, like a crankshaft and AMS oil. Some things I'm learning.
Well, you know, you're a work in progress, as they call it. You're kind of like an old vehicle restoration, you know. A little bit at a time, you know. We will get there. We'll get there. Hey, folks, welcome to the second hour of the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. It's a show where you call in, you ask your automotive or mechanical questions. I don't care. Boat, motorhome, it doesn't matter. All this stuff, it's got a purpose, and it has to do what it was designed to. And all these car questions or motorhome or boat questions, you know, there's no charge for it. You can't beat the price. The advice is absolutely free. That number is 844-580-WDBO. Or if you want to do it the hard way, 844-580-9326. Try to remember that. That'll drive you nuts. 844-580-WDBO. That's the way to do it, and remember it. Also, we take your automotive questions and my comments, and we put them on our new YouTube channel. So other folks looking for the same help, well, they'll be able to pull it up and maybe get some answers to help them as well. Plus, you can play it back anytime you want. That number again is 844-580-WDBO. And to speak to my general manager, JD, at the Magic Mechanics Shop, that number is 407-629-2661. And if you get a busy signal or whatever, you can just leave a message and we'll get you a holler back. Folks, our sponsors are very important to the show. We always want to take this little bit of time during the 4 o'clock hour to go ahead and mention them. It wouldn't be possible without all the sponsors. It's expensive, as you can probably might imagine, to do a 2-hour show every week, so you got to have a few folks bellying up to the bar, as they say. Hey, it's Orlando Auto Upholstery. Interiors, convertible tops, carpet seats, whether it be on a car, a truck, a van, an SUV, maybe you're in the middle of a restoration project, you need some door panels done, any type of upholstery work, carpet, headliners, you name it. Orlando Auto Upholstery does it. You can visit them at orlandoautoupholstery.com. AMSOIL synthetic lubricants for your car, truck, van, SUV, boat, motorcycle, tractor, semi, bulldozer, lawn equipment, you name it, AMSOIL makes a lubricant for it. It's kind of like this, folks. AMSOIL is a fountain of youth for an engine or transmission. There's no argument there from anybody. They make the best. Now, listen to this. Oils that you buy on your Walmart shelves or at your parts store shelves, these are all oils that have come from a refinery. You understand what I'm saying is they literally cook petroleum sludge, crude oil, and they refine it to the point to where they can adjust the viscosity with it, and they put it in a bottle, and that's what you're using in your vehicle. Well, AMSOIL does not come from a refinery. It comes from a laboratory. These oils are manufactured and made in a laboratory in very small batches. They don't have a magic spigot where they're filling up 55-gallon drums one after another. AMSOIL's made a lot different than that. And of course, the ingredients that goes into it is polyalpha olefin base stocks with ester. One keeps an engine from wearing, period, and the other one keeps seals soft and resilient so you never have oil leaks. And the oil is not made from crude oil. So therefore, you don't have carbon and sludge develop inside of an engine. And you can run the oil, as long as you want to. As long as you send it in for analysis to have it checked to make sure it's worthy of continued use. It's just a different oil. It runs to heat and friction as opposed to getting hot and thin and running away from it. That's the reason you can take a problem engine, an engine that had some design issues, run AMSOIL in it, and folks will get 500,000 miles out of it as opposed to 70,000. Kind of reminds me of the Jeep engines. Yeah, like the 3.6 Pentastar motors. Run AMSOIL in them, the things last forever. If you don't, we put rocker arms on it or a new engine, usually before you get 100,000 miles on them. Just the way it is. And plus you got to look at it like this. We recommend 1 year, 15,000 miles between changes on most applications. And, AMSOIL warranties your engine against lubrication failure as long as you use their oil. It sounds crazy. Literally, it sounds absolutely unbelievable, but it's actually the truth. Jasper Engines and Transmissions. If you need an engine or transmission, well, we sell those Jaspers. Why not? They come with a 100,000-mile nationwide warranty, and we have very, very, very few problems out of their products. So if you're looking to repower a vehicle and you want to make an investment as opposed to just going through the motions and having problems after it's done, better off with a Jasper than anything else, really, when you get right down to it. Their warranties are impeccable, and if you have a problem, it's not one of them deals where, okay, we're going to wait a month to get you a motor, and then you're going to have to pay a certain portion of the labor. It doesn't work like that. Their warranty pays the labor claims, and it pays for the product if it has to be replaced. So you're not taking a chance. You pay one time, and there's not very many companies with any products that you can actually say that for. But Jasper's an excellent product. So if it comes time where you need to repower something like that, you always give us a call. You can find out what you're getting at jasperengines.com, and it'll tell you everything that they update and all of the components and things that they actually replace, or if they re-engineer things in your transmission or an engine that you're going to be replacing. And, of course, last but not least, the Magic Mechanic Auto Service Center located in Orlando, Florida. Engines, transmissions, brakes, suspension, steering, electrical repairs, and, of course, Amsoil synthetic lubricants. I am going to add that one of the things that we are doing now that we always kind of tried to shy away from is engines and transmissions that Jasper does not build. A lot of your older pickup trucks, whether it be an Isuzu or a Mazda or anything like that, these are specialty engines. They're not, Jasper doesn't mass produce them. So, here's these folks with these nice old trucks and stuff like that, and what are you going to do, buy one with 500,000 miles on it? No, so we're actually going ahead and building these engines. We're popping the motors out, we're disassembling them, bore them 30 over, new pistons, rings, bearings, oil pumps, and just going completely through them, having the heads done, and new timing chain systems, and throwing them back in these trucks. It's nobody else is doing it, so we're kind of at that type of situation where we're like, you know what? So we've got those things scattered all over the shop right now, building these engines on these old Toyotas and stuff. The older engines that Jasper or none of these builders are building, So we're building all these. I just did a 289 and an old 67 Ford Fairlane. What a fun build. We got done with the motor. I bolted on a really nice set of aluminum heads, a nice intake system, and got it all up and running, and get it all running and let it sit there and idle, trying to break the camshaft in a little bit. And I get out there and just touch the gas pedal and just blows the back tires off this thing. It's ridiculous. So the first thing the customer does after we do the motor on it is he's calling JD back wanting a posi put in the rear end so that he can actually drive the car in the rain because it just blows the tires off the back of it. But those are really fun builds. We enjoy building these motors and stuff, and especially on the things that you just can't buy anymore. So we round them up and get them in there and hunt down the parts and build them and have a whole lot of fun with it. All right, let's get to Richard in Claremont. You've got an 09 Nissan Altima, and it sounds like you've got a transmission issue. What's going on?
Yes, thanks, Larry. 2.5, 140,000 miles. And out of nowhere, the transmission just doesn't engage or anything, whether you put it in park, drive, reverse. It doesn't do anything. The motor just revs up.
Yeah.
A local mechanic said that model is notorious for a pulley belt and that it's 19 hours labor to fix it.
Well, Richard, listen, on a CVT transmission, and you got to remember, Nissan has came a long way with their CVTs. That means continuous variable transmission. They don't actually shift like a conventional transmission. They just change ratio on the fly. Now, when you get one that just loses everything, all drive, you've got a force motor that actually moves a gear in the transmission in order for it to change ratio. Now, if that force motor goes bad, you can have an issue. If the belt breaks, you can have an issue. Or if something mechanically breaks inside the transmission, it'll give you a no engagement type of issue like that. There is, like I said, there is an electrical issue that could cause this. So you definitely want to rule that out before somebody goes and replaces the transmission. But, to be 100% honest with you, the gentleman was kind of telling you right. That was one of the early ones. That's an earlier CVT transmission. They've came a long way since then. So it wouldn't surprise me with the miles that you've got on the car that it needs the transmission done in it. Considering during that era, most of those were lucky if they got 100,000 mile out of them, without having to replace the transmission in them. I will tell you this, and I know that somebody out there in listener land is going to chuckle, but, I don't have it in front of me, but I would not be opposed to calling Nissan up and asking if there is any special policy adjustment or if there's any type of an extended warranty on that transmission, because they were so bad during that period in time that, they recalled hundreds of thousands of these things during that time. And just because they had one that actually worked a little longer than it should have, you shouldn't be penalized for it. But, like I said, I would definitely call them up and just run it by them and just ask if there's any type of special policy adjustment or recall that is still still active on that particular car. It's worth the phone call. Worst case scenario, they tell you no. And if that's the case, then give us a holler, and we'll see what we need to do as far as checking your problem. And if it does need to have the transmission gone through, then of course we can take care of that for you. But give Nissan a call. Find out if there is any type of special policy adjustment on that. Because at one time they were recalling all of those during that particular year models. So give that a holler, Richard. I hope it works out for you, buddy.
844-580 WDBO. George giving us a call from Orlando. Go ahead, George.
Hey, Larry, little the scoop.
Hey, buddy. Happy New Year, George.
Same to you. Listen, when you get home tonight, take you a shot of rum with some honey and lemon. All your troubles will be over.
Well, we'll give that a whirl, too. But we've been trying it with ginger, honey, and lemon. That's what I've been giving we've been trying that so far. I don't think I've got any rum. Will tequila work?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're Dr. George, so I figured, you would know. Yeah. I mean, can you substitute tequila for rum? I don't know. I mean, shoot. I'm game. I'm game. I'll give it a whirl, see what happens anyway. I'll let you know how it turns out. How's that?
Yeah. Hey, Larry, what makes that 4.6 of my blue baby such a good engine?
Oh, you're going to love this. See, Ford started doing those modular engines, making the 4.6s back in, I believe it was 1992. Do you know where all of that, do you know where that whole thing came from? You remember we used to have the 302 and the 50 motors, years ago. And then they came out with that 4.6. And I'm going, well, why in the world do they want to mess with success? 50 Mustangs and the 302 engines have been such good motors, for Ford, other than them using those plastic timing gears at one time and plugging the oil sumps up. But it was a good engine, so they wanted to do this modular 4.6 engine, which eventually turned into the 5.4, and all those motors are great engines. But all of that come from basically a Mercedes platform. They pretty much duplicated the Mercedes engine that was made from the late 70s all the way through the 80s. And I mean, these are engines that, people were putting 500,000 miles on. Well, Ford did it one better than Mercedes. See, Mercedes only had one problem with their V8s back in that period of time. They had an aluminum block. And what would happen is the same thing that happened to Cadillac with their North Star engines. by using an aluminum block. The head bolts over a period of time would pull the threads, the aluminum threads in the block itself. Well, Ford didn't bother making an aluminum block. They used a cast steel block. So you didn't have that particular problem. What do you wind up with is an engine that you can put an easy 500,000 mile on. And that's exactly what they wound up building. And then, of course, from 92 on up, they went from a single cam to the, a dual overhead cam, and they made the motor, and then they started using the cam phasers for variable cam timing. So the engine has been progressing ever since they manufactured it, pretty much. But, they started off with an excellent platform, and I always wondered, there was never, ever anything ever said about Ford stealing the whole entire idea and the platform that Mercedes has already been testing for years before they actually built it. There had to have been some underhanded deal making going on, because, literally, those engines are almost exactly the same. There's very little difference between how one's made versus the other. As far as them being when they were primitive and they first started building them. But it's pretty much an entire duplicate of the older Mercedes motors. And that's the reason that those hold up in those Marquis and Crown Vics and the old town cars. That's the reason they held up as well as they did. You got one that'll outlast me and you both, George. We can take pride in that. And it being an American-made product. Imagine that. Thanks for your call, brother.
Thank you so much, George. Talk about holding up. Jim's got a question about a 1930 Ford, which I am almost 100% sure is the oldest car that I've ever screened on this show. So it's a new day for new things, talking about cars in Costa Rica and 100-year-old Fords. Coming up next.
So I'm on the internet looking for a free Carfax report. And certainly it says free, but any site you go to, you start a little basic information, and after that, they want your money, comma. Is there a true site where I can type in my VIN and get a free Carfax report? Thanks.
I don't know. I will tell you this. We can pull up a Carfax on any vehicle, and it will give us some of the service records, but it will not, we are a Carfax shop. But the way it works is we can look at mechanical history, but we can't pull up everything unless we actually pay for it. And folks, listen, I don't care, what is it, 19, 29, I don't know how much it is per Carfax, but I'm telling you, if you're going to buy a used vehicle, you really need to pull a Carfax. It is mileage discrepancies, flood stuff, especially after all the hurricanes and floods in Texas and everything like that. You really need to know where that car came from, what it has endured in its lifetime. I'm going to tell you like this. If you're looking at a used car, let's say it's 10 years old and it was originally titled in New Hampshire or Maine, I'm going to be honest with you, you are bumped in the head if you don't have that vehicle really checked over before you buy it. You get that thing up on a lift, it's liable to fall apart when you raise it off the ground. So there's so much information that can be interpreted from that. And I don't care if it's 29 or 39 or whatever they're charging nowadays for the Carfax. Folks, that is such a small price for a lot of peace of mind. It's just silly on a consumer's part not to pull that. We have that available. Like I said, we can pull up mechanical. We could probably tell you the oil change history of a vehicle just by looking at our Carfax, because we're directly online with them. So we get an immense amount of information on a vehicle when they bring it in for a pre-purchase. But if we're going to look at the previous insurance claims and everything else, they are going to charge us for that. So depending on how involved you want to get with a pre-purchase inspection. Now, usually we can look at the vehicle and tell if there's been anything, we see it every day because we do a lot of pre-inspections on used cars. but we can usually look at the vehicle and actually tell you if there's been anything that has been interrupted body-wise or whatever, or the severity of it. But the Carfax, if you're just going out of here and you're going to kick some tires yourself and you want a little information on that vehicle, it's imperative that you pull a Carfax on it. It is. And they really have a lot of information, and they'll let you know if there's anything there that you really need to stay away from or check or double check, so to speak. But that's kind of where I'm at with the Carfax thing and used cars.
Thank you so much. Let's head back to the phones. Got a whole bunch of people still on hold. Let's try to get to as many as we can. AJ calling from Orlando. AJ's got a question about a 06 Chrysler van. Go ahead, AJ.
Good afternoon, Larry.
Hey, AJ.
Got an 06 Town and Country handicap van, 2,000 miles on it. In the last several months, it developed one heck of a lift place. Had it local mechanic. Don't worry about it. Just put in some seafoam stuff. Not done yet. Just wait for the oil to go down.
Is it a ticking noise, AJ?
Yes.
Okay. That is it. The 3.8 motor or the 3.3?
3.8.
Did you try the seafoam?
I haven't yet. I'm waiting for the oil to add to it.
Okay. Now, see, this is the thing. You want to run the seafoam in it and see what happens. It could be a lifter issue, but you got to remember, see, that's not an overhead cam motor. That's a push rod engine. And if you've got a continual ticking noise, it might be a good idea to have somebody pull the valve covers on that thing and just take a peek and see what's going on underneath of them. If it needs a lifter, it's not the end of the world. And let me tell you, on that motor, it's got a roller cam in it. The lifters actually have rollers on them. Now, if that roller on the bottom of that lifter is going bad, you want to get to that as soon as possible. Because if not, that roller is going to come loose, and you're going to have a big mess on your hands messing around with a can of seafoam. You'll be winding up putting the motor in the thing is what you'll wind up doing. But I'd try running some seafoam through it before you do an oil change on it. Listen, if it does not quiet down and go away, that means it's not a lifter that's causing the problem. It's either going to be a bent push rod, a roller on the lifter, a rocker that's going bad, a rocker cradle that's worn out, something along those lines. It's a little more serious, and if you let it go too long, you're going to wind up having a big mess on your hands, and you'll be winding up trying to find a motor for an 06 Chrysler van. Try it. I don't have a problem with you trying it. But if that don't take care of it, flushing the motor with it and doing another oil change, if it's still got the problem, going to have to pull those valve covers and find out exactly what's going on with it, or you're going to wind up losing the motor on account of it. And see, these are the kind of examples. 06 Chrysler van. Well, who in the world wants to turn around and wind up spending $7,000 or $8,000 on a new motor? You don't want to get to that point. You know, I know it's going to cost a little bit of money to fix it. Goodness gracious. I mean, that's just part of life. But it's going to cost a whole lot more if you ignore it. You know, so just understand the importance. If that don't take care of it, that means it's not hydraulically a problem with the lifter itself. It's something a little more in depth, and if you let it go, it's going to wind up costing you a whole pile of money. So kind of keep that in mind. Let's try the flush, see what happens. If not, we need to pull the valve covers and do an inspection. I appreciate your call, and thanks for holding on, AJ.
Thank you so much, AJ. Let's head over to Merritt Island, where Todd's got a question about his F-150. Go ahead, Todd.
Hey there, Larry. You're talking about the AMSOIL good for a year, 15,000 miles. I only put about 3,500 miles a year on my 2013 F-150 with the 5-liter in it.
Uh-huh.
Do I have to change it every 12 months? Or
No. It's got a longer shelf life than that. In a case like yours, you got a 5.0 in that thing, right?
only pull the boat with it.
Okay.
Every other weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, now what weight have you been running in this thing?
520.
Well, we're not going to anymore.
Good.
Putting a 20 weight in one of the strongest running engines that Ford Motor Company has ever built is the dumbest thing that they have ever recommended as far as Ford's been in business. Putting a 20 weight in an engine like that is absolutely ridiculous. Look at it like this. Todd, they put that same 5.0 minus a little bit of camshaft modification in a Mustang GT, which is a road rocket, for goodness sakes. Very hard-working motor. And, they'll recommend 5W50 in that engine. And normally it's not working nowhere near as hard as your 5.0 in a truck pulling a boat. I'm like, how do they come up with these specifications? It is stupid. But in your case, we want to run, and this is a beautiful viscosity. You don't have to run big old heavy oil in that, but you got to have something that's going to keep parts separated, for goodness sakes, especially during towing in the middle of summer. You want to run the Amsoil Signature Series 0W30. You got the lowest cold pour point you could ever develop, plus you got a 30-weight viscosity there that's going to keep parts separated at normal operating temperature and towing a boat. So you're when we go from a 20 to a 30 here in Central Florida, folks don't use 20 weights here in Florida. It's just suicidal for an engine. In your case, you think about it like this: by going from that 20, which is the number that we're looking at for normal operating temps, to that 30, that's going to provide that engine, and get a load of this, 33% more engine protection just by viscosity, not counting the benefit that you would get by it being Amsoil on top of that. You're talking about just an unpenetrable protection compared to a 520, something that Ford's going to pour in the motor. Oh, geez. You can't even, there's not even a comparison with it. And those oils, listen, as long as the vehicle's being used and it's not just sitting stationary for, a year at a time, every couple years, you're not going to have any problem whatsoever. So there's not really a shelf life on Amsoil. I've got 1972 vintage in the can of Amsoil at the shop. I could open any of those up and pour them out, and it's going to look just as good as when it went into the bottle or into the old style can that you use the old plunger that had to break the top on them to pour them into your motor. But no, you're good. Every couple of years in your case, 0W30 Signature Series Amsoil, and you be calling me up 20 years from now telling me stories about the truck if we're around that long. Hey, Todd, thanks for your call, and thanks for hanging on.
Let's head on over to Winter Park and back in time, where Jim's got a question about an old car. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Larry. I'll make this as quick as I can. I got a Model A, and, if you got a Model A, you got to work on it yourself, or people in the club will kind of laugh at you. But I think I might have bit off more than I could chew on this one. It got a rod knocking, and I assume it's the rod. I took the valve cover off and pushed on all the valves and couldn't change I would call it a knock at cold and a tick at hot.
Okay.
And so I took the plugs out of it, and I can turn it over with the fan. And at a certain point, jerking it back and forth with the fan, you can hear a clunk, clunk, clunk. So I ruled out the wrist pins, because I thought maybe that would clunk any time you jerk the motor back and forth.
Yeah.
So it sounded like number 2 rod, so I pulled the pan off. And number 2 rod was the loosest rod.
Okay.
But how loose is loose, I don't know. I'm not a mechanic.
Hey, if you can move it, Jim, listen, if you can move it and you can physically feel it move, it's too loose. Now listen, in this engine, what's got to be done is got to get a set of updated rods for it that'll hold a regular insert bearing, as opposed to the old Babbitt style. You know, I wouldn't even try to go back with Babbitt's on that old style rod. They make rods. You know, we put pistons, whatever we need to, on the end of it, rings. But where they go onto the crank. See, what they did was you use tin and a few other metals, sometimes even some lead, and you would dip that rod into that, and then you would machine that to get it to the clearance. And they don't hold up a long time, you know. It's just they don't last that long. What I would suggest doing is just go and we just get updated rods for it and just build the motor that way. It'll hold together a long time like that. But they make updated rods to replace the old Babbitt style bearings that actually went in there. So I think that would be your best bet. If you need help with it, give me a holler. Let me know. Bring it down. I'll put it on an engine stand. We'll go through it. It ain't no big thing, but we have to update those rods, especially if it's got the original ones in it. Plastic gauge, on that motor, you're going to be wanting somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,500 to maximum of 2,000 oil clearance. And it sounds like you could throw a cat between the crankshaft journal and your rod. So yeah, if you keep running it like that, you're going to wind up messing the crank up too. Hopefully the crankshaft's okay. A lot of times, see, the crankshaft's a lot harder than the Babbitt, so the Babbitt is more or less sacrificial in those older engines, considering the oil that we had to use back in the day. So hopefully we can just get a set of updated rods put in there and just check everything over, throw it all back together, and it'll run like a sewing machine, all 40 horsepower, just like it was from the factory. Well, folks, I'm kind of out of time, and there's a bunch of you still on hold. I'm absolutely flattered that you called in today and kept us all busy. Thanks for tuning in. You listeners, customers, show sponsors are the reason we do the show, and I have a job. You can tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time in Central Florida on 107.3 FM, HD Radio 96.5 and AM 580, worldwide at WDBO.com, and click Listen Live, or just tell your smart speaker to play WDBO Radio every Saturday at 3 p.m. If you need help with your vehicle, you can always call Magic Mechanic at 407-629-2661. Visit our website, magicmechanic.com, or you can also email me car questions directly to me, Larry at magicmechanic.com. And don't forget to check out our new YouTube channel. Just put in Magic Mechanic YouTube, and shoot, you can watch last week's, you can hear, you can actually watch the radio show. It's really kind of a kick, you know. I always tell folks, I say, you know, I got to get used to not picking my nose, especially during the course of the radio show now. You imagine that? Hey, folks, until next week, be safe in and out of your car. We'll see you back here next Saturday at 3 p.m. Thanks for tuning in to the Magic Mechanic Radio Show, and of course our new YouTube channel. For more automotive tips, tricks, and just general information, make sure you subscribe to our new YouTube channel.